Hello and welcome to Good Morning UK Have Your Say, a Force for Good's mid-morning show coming to you live from our nerve centre here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow. With me, your host, Alistair McConaughey. And this is the programme where we're British, we love the UK and we want to stay together. And it's your respite for an hour from the craziness of the world out there. And if you're watching on Facebook or on Twitter or on YouTube, please do send in your comments and join in the conversation. And tell us what's on your mind. There's, as always, a lot has been happening and we've got a lot to get through in this programme. Our guest today at the top of the hour is the legend who is Max Dunbar. He was out with myself last Wednesday. We were doing some activism outside Holyrood, and I want to just tell you about that and the sort of things that we learned from that. And Max and I are going to be talking about the anti-free speech law, which unfortunately was passed, although to nobody's surprise. We knew that was coming, didn't we? So please do fire in your comments, folks, and please do tell us where you're watching. Good morning to Ryan, who says good morning to all proud Britons from across the United Kingdom. Good morning to you, Ryan. Always good to see you in here, and always good to see TC as well. Good morning to all fellow Unionists from all over the world. And to James also, a very good morning, James, and Sandra. Sandra, good to see you, and I hope you're keeping well, Sandra. So, where shall I begin? Firstly, I want to thank the person who sent in some documentation to the office this week. Our office, or maybe what we should call our media briefing centre, which is what Boris Johnson calls his new centre, which he spent 2.6 million on. We didn't exactly spend 2.6 million on our background, but nevertheless we've managed to cram in more Union Jacks than he managed to cram in. If you count them there, 7 Union Jacks in our media briefing centre compared to only 4 in Boris Johnson's £2.6 million briefing centre. So where's the best bang for the buck? We think that's with a Force for Good. Samuel, hi. Good morning, watching from Gloucestershire. And Tommy, morning from Newcastle. David Davis had something to say last night, didn't he? Indeed, we'll touch on that. Karen, good morning. And Bob also watching from the Philippines. Fantastic. I hope you've got hope it's a good day or evening out there in the Philippines, Bob. And Linda, always from southeast London. I hope it shines. I hope it's some nice weather in southeast London. It always seems to be overcast down there, Linda. Let's hope that the summer's going to bring some nice weather for you. Alan, hi to you. And Francis, morning from Scotland. How do you do, Francis? And Maggie. And to Alan, I'm good, Alan. Hope you are too. Yeah. So somebody sent us some mail that came in. Now, as you know, the SNP we're 7 weeks away now from the big day, which is Thursday, the 6th of May, the Scottish ejection, as we're calling it, not the Scottish election, the Scottish ejection, where we're going to purge the Sturge, give Humza the heave, get Swinney in the binny, and make Angus Robertson the soon-to-be-forgotten one. At least that's the aim, and we can at least talk about it and talk that up, because if we don't talk that up, then it's not going to happen at all, is it? So let's hope for the best, and let's work for the best as well on the 6th of May. Now, of course, the Scottish National Party never miss a trick. If you've gone or had any dealings with your local SNP councillor or MSP or MP, then you will be on their database and they will legally be able to use your name and address. So don't be surprised if you get documentation through from them encouraging you to vote by post, and they'll send you a letter like this. I've cut out the address of the person that it was sent to, but you've got a lovely picture there of Nicola, and she'll be telling you that in normal times a postal vote is easy. Amidst the pandemic, they do like to call it a pandemic, it's your safest option. Your safest option. Otherwise, you might all die by going to the polling station. You know, ramping up this fear. They're always ramping up the fear. Everybody's doing it, ramping up the fear of the great outdoors. And so your safest way is just to stay at home and just vote for Nicola Sturgeon. And she's made it easy for you as well, because she's sent an application form, and which says safe voting, how to vote by post, and on the other side she's already written in your name and your address, so you don't even have to be bothered to do that. All you need to do is just fill in the bit on the right hand side where you sign it. And then you sign that, you send that away, and you're registered to vote by post, and you'll get your postal ballot. They've even given you an envelope as well of where to send it to. And you will then get a form back, which will be your postal ballot, and they're going to be sending out the postal ballots in the second week of April. And if you do want a postal vote, by the way, if you do want one, then you need to apply for it now, and you apply for it at registertovote.com. Let me bring this up. Let me bring up where you apply for it. You apply for it there. If you do want one of those postal votes, we don't like postal voting at all, because it's easily manipulated, and if they're going to try, as they are, to move the bulk of the population to postal voting, then that will be the beginning of the corruption of the British democratic process. No question about it. When you start to move a majority of the population to postal votes, you simply the system will not be able to cope with it, and it will fall apart, and it will be easy to manipulate. So that's the sort of way that they're going at the moment. So we don't approve of postal votes, but if you do want one for some reason, you're going to have to apply before Tuesday the 6th of April for that, okay? Before Tuesday the 6th of April, if you do want the postal vote. Otherwise, if you're not registered to vote, you need to be registered by, let me just check my piece of paper here, so I don't make a mistake on this. You need to be registered by the 19th of April. By the 19th of April, if you're not already registered. I'm sure most people watching this program are registered, but if you know somebody that's not registered, maybe a young person, then you can please do try to get them registered, if they're likely to support unionism, that is. Get them registered for the 19th of April. But seriously, everybody should be registered, whatever your political tendencies are. Tommy says, are political leaflets not banned? No, they're not. Certainly not through the post anyway. And here in Scotland, they've been allowed to start distributing them from a couple of days ago. Totally Nelson, postal voting is fraudulent and full of skullduggery. And Francis says, polling stations use pencils. Take pens and give them out. We always take a pen and we make our indelible mark in black ink, and that's just the safest way anyway. Samuel, I think postal voting should be looked upon with scepticism. I think it should be an absolute last resort for those who cannot get to a polling station. Absolutely. Totally. Alan says the only people who should be able to post a vote are pensioners and the disabled. Yes, and even if you're a pensioner, only if for some reason you can't make it to the polling station, because it's a good thing actually to do the ritual, to get up, going to the polling station, doing my democratic duty, as it were, the the thing that many people fought and died for. So if you can't get out of bed and go to the polling station, it's a sad lookout, really. So we always encourage you actually taking part in that physical ritual of going to the polling station. And it is certainly in the United Kingdom, where it's paper ballots, then it is generally quite a safe way of doing it. In the United States of America, where they use electronic machines to vote or other type of machines, it's totally open to fraud. Totally open to fraud, and we've spoken about that in the past. How American the democratic system holds together. I think it's just an illusion over there. Anyway, here in the United Kingdom, we still do have paper ballots, and generally speaking, these are well counted, and they are safe. And we do generally have a democratic system here in the UK that works very well. But if they're going to start compromising with postal voting, then we're looking at a system going forward that will be easily corruptible. So goodness me, let's hope that they keep sensible on that. Well, Callum, just changing the subject now, asks a very good question. Do I think that Anas Sarwar will beat Sturgeon in the constituency that he is standing against her in? Well, wouldn't it be amazing if he did? And I wouldn't discount the possibility. I wouldn't discount the possibility that he could beat Sturgeon, and that would really be something, because that would set the cat among the pigeons, no question about it. So I'm not going to discount that, because I think that the Scottish National Party are losing their shine, as we've said several times before. Definitely losing their shine. Now, some people will have seen David Davis in the House of Commons yesterday, and he had documentation, he claimed, that proved that, let me just see this, quote, "I have it on good authority that there exists from the 6th of February 2018 an exchange of messages between civil servants suggesting that the First Minister's Chief of Staff is interfering in the complaints process against Alex Salmond. If true, this suggests the Chief of Staff had knowledge of the case in February, not April, as she has claimed." So we're looking at more problems for Sturgeon, which, if true, will mean that she will have to resign. If she's found to have breached the ministerial code, even Sturgeon, I can't see how she is going to be able to survive that. Whether that comes out before the 6th of May or after depends on various things. But if that came out before the 6th of April, then that's a game changer, a complete game changer. So lots to be excited about, quite frankly. Lots to be excited about, because we could be looking at purging the Sturgeon. We could purge the Sturge after all. These things can happen, and we've got to talk them up, just as we talk up about giving Humza the heave and getting Humza out and sacking Humza. These things are possible. They are possible. They won't. They're not for certain, but unless we're speaking about them, they're not going to happen at all. And Ryan has some good word here for David Davis, a man that has always been on the right side of history. He was right to campaign for the UK to leave the EU, and he's right now in saying that legislative devolution has been an abysmal failure. It's certainly done nothing to hold the United Kingdom together. It's only simply empowered the Scottish nationalists. And Sue agrees that Purge the Sturgeon is a brilliant idea. Gavin says, get the tyrant queen out. and Maggie thinks that Davis was magnificent last night. Absolutely. Stronger together, always united. We stand, Frankie. Completely agree with that. So there has been one or two good good points coming up. You know, the SNP is, the shine has come off, and they are going down in the polls. However, we need to do more than simply be hope that they fail. We have to be proactive in our efforts. And one or two things that the British government have been doing lately have given us cause for optimism in the long term. You know, prior to just now, the British government of all stripes, the Conservatives and the Tories, haven't really properly understood how Britain is held together and what you need to do in order to hold the country together, all four corners of it. It's been a little bit too London-centric, as it were. But there are positive signs that these things are changing now. And, for example, this week we heard that one of the ideas that's being mooted, which we really like and which we've spoken about before, is actually moving the House of Commons around the United Kingdom. And there's an article here that appeared on the 12th of March in the Daily Telegraph saying Commons could tour the United Kingdom in bid to save the Union, it says, but certainly in bid to strengthen the Union is what it should be saying. That what they would do is sittings would take place each September when the Commons returns after the summer recess and before it breaks for party conferences. And these sittings could be held in Holyrood or in the Welsh Assembly in Cardiff or in Stormont, with the location rotating. Now, who was the first to come up with that fantastic idea? Well, certainly we have been publicising it for several years, and we did mention that, of course, in our classic wee book for the Union, and that's idea number 12, locate Parliament in the rest of the UK. And we suggested while repairs are being carried out in Westminster, because it's an opportunity to bring the beating heart of British democracy to other parts of the United Kingdom. And, of course, it's a stunt, but it's a valuable stunt, and sometimes politics is simply about stunts, and holding the country together is about stunts, you know. And so we think that's a great idea. Definitely gets away from that sort of London-centric metropolitan feel, and it spreads the love around the country. As for cost and things like that, you know, we're paying for the system anyway. It's not going to be a whole lot more cost, really, at the end of the day. And Ryan's saying that devolution has been hijacked by separatists from across the Union. It's a Trojan horse that's leading to a two-tiered United Kingdom. Indeed, it's a Trojan horse. It's one thing to have parties that support the Union, but it's another thing to actually be for it to enable parties which oppose the Union. And, you know, talking about other things, other ideas that we've been able to, like, influence in a way, we were really, really pleased to see an article at the weekend in the Sunday Telegraph by Daniel Hannan. And I'm just actually going to bring it up here and read it to you, because it was quite surprising, but very pleasing that this was mentioned, okay? And I'm going to read it all out to you in full. And he says here in this document, and I don't know if I can make that a little bit bigger. He goes, the Scottish Secretary, the wry and good-humoured Dumfries businessman Alistair Jack, has a neat phrase. Britain, he likes to say, is a family of nations and a nation of families. Britain, he likes to say, is a family of nations and a nation of families. Well, I wonder where he heard that phrase from. That, of course, was coined by A Force for Good, and we talk much more about our nation of families rather than a family of nations. We speak much more about our nation of unions than we do about a union of nations, because we emphasise the United Kingdom as one nation. And here Hannon continues, most of us have relatives in more than one of the constituent parts, and we dislike the thought of turning these relatives into foreigners. Absolutely fantastic. And that is a winning, that's a winning slogan, by the way, that nation of families. That's a winning slogan, courtesy of A Force for Good. At this time now, it's 10:50. We're going to give this day in British history, because we like to remember the past in order that we can understand where we got to, so that we can understand where we are going. Now, today is, of course, St. Patrick's Day, the 17th of March. And this is the day that St. Patrick is presumed to have passed away. Now, it's also the national day of a British overseas territory called Monserrat, which is located in the Caribbean. And this is an island that's still in British jurisdiction. Okay, it's still one of the parts that used to be in the British Empire that has stayed within the British ambit. And there's 14 British overseas territories altogether, and Monserrat is one of them. And it's just a small island. It's 10 miles long, 7 miles wide, and it was in the mid-17th to 18th century that it became populated by a significant number of Irish people. Hence the National Day also falling on St. Patrick's Day. And the flag, which I'll just bring up here, is a nice flag. It has got the Union Jack in one corner of it, and it's got the blue to symbolise the sea, and it's got the figure of Erin holding a cross, holding a Christian cross there. And the national motto, which is good, is a people of excellence, moulded by nature and nurtured by God. And Monserratians are British citizens, as are all citizens of all the 14 British overseas territories. And so that's St. Patrick's Day, which is also the national day of the British Overseas Territory of Montserrat, located in the Caribbean. And what the Foreign Office does in London is, on the national day of every British Overseas Territory, it flies the flag of that British Overseas Territory, which is a nice little touch, which helps to remind everybody that the British family is worldwide, as a consequence of British history having been worldwide, quite literally. Now, also on this day, the 17th of March in 1938, HMS Belfast was launched from the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, where it was built 83 years ago today. And of course, HMS Belfast is still with us. That's the ship that is on the Thames that you can visit. At least you can visit it when things get back to normal. So that's HMS Belfast, launched 83 years ago today from Harland and Wolff in Belfast on the appropriate St. Patrick's Day, 17th of March. So that's a couple of little things in British history. And at the top of the hour, just before we bring on the legend who is Max Dunbar, which is going to be very, very shortly, we are going to name the we're going to give you a question which is going to be based upon that. Now, I'm just going to get in touch here with our man who is coming on. Just bear with me while I do that, because he's going to be on. He's just sent me there a wee message saying he's going to be running about 2 or 3 minutes late. I know exactly why that's going to be. So he's going to be coming on, and we're going to talk about what we were doing this Wednesday. Now, some of you will have seen that Max and I were outside Holyrood on Wednesday, because that was the day that the Scottish nationalists were putting forward their anti-free speech law. And the debate was held all Wednesday and also all Thursday, and they were successful. There were 82 people who voted for this bill, which was all of the Scottish National Party except for 2 people who didn't vote, except for several people actually who didn't vote, and some of the Labour Party. And we've put up the names, the Hall of Shame and Fame, and that's on our website, and we'll put up the link there which details specifically the 82 people who tragically voted for this act, and the 32 heroes, which included 3 members of the Labour Party who voted against it. Yeah, good. I see my guest is in the waiting room, the legend who is Max Dunbar, and my apologies to Max there for not bringing him in when he was expecting to be brought in. Anyway, so Max and I were outside Holyrood, and we were stopped by a couple of police officers who said that we would not be able to use our megaphone because there was only the 2 of us. That was quite legal for the 2 of us to be there, but they did not want us to use the megaphone because they said that would not be for the purposes of work. So what that essentially meant was that Police Scotland is forbidding political protest, even of 2 people, which is a sad lookout at the moment. Now, I'm going to bring in Max here, but before I do so, the question to everybody, which was based on this day in British history, is on this day, 17th of March, in 1938, HMS Belfast was launched from which shipyard? What was the name of the shipyard that built and launched HMS Belfast? And if you send that in, please, if you send in your answers to contact@aforceforgood.uk, and at the bottom of the hour we'll tell you who won that competition. The competition is from which shipyard was HMS Belfast launched. The first person who gets the right answer will get a box of Spitfire mints from Stewarts of Scotland. Okay? Nice little box of quality mints with a Spitfire emblazoned there on the tin, to the first person who gets that correct answer. Okay, so please do, folks, please do welcome in Max, and I'm going to bring in Max right now. Hello, Max. Can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear, Alistair.
Good.
Morning.
Good, Max. Good to see you. You're looking well this morning. How are you feeling?
Yeah, feeling good. Yeah, feeling very
Good.
well.
Have you recovered from your jaunt through to Holyrood with myself last week? That was an exciting day, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I mean, I wasn't feeling 100% on that day, but yeah, it was well worth the trip. And I think you did pretty much what you set out to do in terms of reporting from the Scottish Parliament to our followers and supporters, etc. And I think you did a good job of it. We made the most of the fairly limited opportunities available to us, but the main thing was that we got the message across,
That
or rather, you
that's
did.
right. That's right. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, um, we you know we've got good experience in this sort of thing, and we know that when we go to something like that, we have to go with a plan because too many people turn up at these sorts of events and they're like, oh, what shall we do? We'll just shout. And you see them on the
Yeah,
internet, like these crazy people who just like swear in the faces of
yeah,
police officers
yeah,
or, chant profanities and
yeah,
achieve basically nothing.
yeah. I think quite a lot of these people go. Well, it doesn't matter whether they're from the right or the left. They go anticipating a fight with someone, and they're all pent up with aggression. They're ready like a coiled spring to go on the offensive when it's not really either necessary or appropriate. But I mean, I think it comes with getting the most out of a situation like that comes with experience, and we've had experience of dealing with the police and with members of the opposition as well. And at the end of the day, it's really got to be about what we can communicate our views to the general public and our supporters in a coherent and measured way that sounds intelligent and as objective as we can make it. Because
That's right.
the more objective it is and it sounds, the more credible it is. If you're coming from some kind of sort of wacky extremist position, then you're not going to get your message across as effectively because people will first of all consider you to be probably rather unreliable sort of person, and also emotion gets in the way. You know, I don't think we're guilty of any of that. I think we can look at these events and so on more objectively and report them as such.
Yes, I think so. Were you surprised at the reaction of the two police officers who came up to us and told us that we couldn't use the megaphone?
Uh, to be honest, I wasn't surprised because I mean you've given me some inkling of the sort of response that we were likely to get from having watched other people doing basically what we were doing before us, and so I wasn't surprised. And also the general attitude of the police and the authorities towards any kind of demonstration now is one of basically it's negativity. They don't want people demonstrating. But we weren't there to demonstrate, really. We were there more, although we took the megaphone, um, we were really there to report on the proceedings that were going on within the Parliament. I mean, the megaphone would have been a little bit of drama, bit of spice to add to the thing. But basically, you'd have been saying more or less the same thing on the megaphone as you said when you were speaking uh, on your phone, I think.
Yes,
Would I be
yes,
right in saying that?
yes, absolutely. I mean, the megaphone is. I was talking earlier about stunts, and the
Mm,
megaphone is a stunt, obviously, because you
yes.
can just get your message out by simply talking to a phone, but having a megaphone and blasting outside Holyrood, it's good to see. It's good laugh and it's good fun,
Well,
and people
it
watch it.
creates a bit of drama, and people like entertainment, and in a sense, you're providing that entertainment, which I think you do. You manage to combine entertainment and informing people at the same time. And people are going to, I think people will listen and pay more attention if they're being entertained as well.
Absolutely, you have to. One mustn't be too earnest about stuff,
No.
because at the end of the day, we're all going to die anyway. Is the way I
Exactly.
look at it. So
Yeah.
you have to enjoy life while you can, and but at the same time, you do have to be serious. But you've also got to have a little bit of fun in there as well.
Sure.
And that's why we always like our little rhymes in there, our little songs, our little jokes, all that sort of stuff, because that just keeps it moving, keeps the energy high.
Yes.
But were you surprised at the result at the end of the day? 82 SNP people and the majority of the Labour Party, all the Lib Dems and all the Scottish Cabbage Party people voting to silence our free speech. Were you surprised at that, Max?
Not in the slightest. No, absolutely not. I mean, at least the Conservatives basically Conservatives are Conservative in name only. But at least they didn't go along with that. I mean, that's something to be said in their favour for once.
Yes.
Although, you always have to think cynically and think, why? Is there some kind of opportunity for them or some advantage that they can gain by voting against the others? But of course, if they had voted with them, the whole thing, we really would be talking about a one-party state up here.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I mean, the country is run. Scotland is run as a one-party state, effectively, because there's no proper opposition worthy of the name. I would say, personally, I think that's how I feel about it.
Yes, but some people certainly do say that. What I
would say is that to have an effective opposition, to bring in this word that's being bandied around, hate. I mean, you do need a bit of healthy hate to provide healthy opposition, because if there's no real fundamental difference of opinion and the conviction to go with it, I don't see how you can provide effective opposition.
That's right.
So I don't think people should be too shy about this word hate. I mean, I know that the socialists are trying to suppress any opposition, and they use this word hate simply as a tool to do that, to beat people down with. But I think really looking at it again objectively, hate is an emotion, and it's something that you can't have love without hate. You can't have sweet without sour. You can't have hot without cold. You just have to accept that hate is there. And in politics, there's always hate, of course. That's why there's politics.
Well, that's right.
Division, and where there's division, there's difference of opinion. And hitherto, we've been able in the UK, through our democratic system, to be able to kind of harness these emotions and powers and to direct them in such a way that everyone at the end of the day generally will accept the majority view, even if they don't like it. And they know, or they have known, that in the future things could be changed. But the problem is now we've entered a new phase where we don't have the kind of checks and balances. Certainly in the Scottish Parliament, it would seem we don't have the checks and balances that there have been hitherto in the UK Parliament. I mean, you could argue now the UK Parliament is kind of off the leash, but certainly the executive is off the leash in the way that it has operated in the last year.
Oh, aye, very, very, very disturbing. Actually, what's been happening in Scotland, but also in the British Parliament, the mother of all parliaments, reduced to a shell of itself. Debates conducted between 7 or 8 people in the entire chamber, and big bills rushed through without proper examination.
Without proper scrutiny.
Yeah, and all because they use the excuse of the emergency, the pandemic, as they like to call it, which is, they call that deliberately, that, in order to provide cover for what they are doing, in order to make people think, oh, well, proper government has been suspended because there's a pandemic. Well, I've seen all the films myself, and a pandemic is when there's literally bodies lying on the street and there's men in hazmat suits carrying them off in stretchers. That's a pandemic.
We've not been tripping over any corpses recently, have we? I don't recollect anything like that happening the last year.
No.
Maybe it sounds a bit facetious to say so, but I agree with you. I think the whole thing has been exaggerated for purposes that are not genuine.
Yeah, and the amount of political things that they're putting through under this cover is really quite astonishing. And they're getting away with it as well, because, I mean, even in our small way, when we went along on Wednesday, we were the only two people outside the entire building.
Yes.
Now, normally there would have been a healthy number of people outside with banners and slogans, and the media would have been there and so on. But because there's a pandemic, the place was literally like something from a zombie film. Nobody around, apart from just ourselves and one or two police officers. And that's when one of the most important bills is passing that's ever passed in Holyrood. Just deathly passing to a deathly silence, other than ourselves doing what we can. To
and the other thing is, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the media have really sort of brought enough public attention to what was going on in the way that our freedoms were being seriously taken away or eroded over these 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday. I mean, I'm not aware that the media have been particularly active in talking about it.
No, they haven't. And if you looked at the Scottish press, you would see only maybe a half a page report on what happened on Thursday, or you'd just see a small column in the corner or something like that. There's alternative sources on the internet have been holding forth about it, but as far as the mainstream media, which creates reality for most people, that has been silent. They've kept it quiet. And of course, Hum's is very clever, because he makes it sound like he's trying to, as if it's a good thing, And it goes back to what you're saying about hate. If you just call anything hate, then most people will be like, we don't like hate. Well, it's not hate. It's just somebody giving their opinion about a certain matter which you disagree with, that you're calling hate. That's really what it amounts to. It's attempting to shut down political speech that they don't like under the guise of hate.
It's really as simple as that. You've nailed it there.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, so whether this will ever get overturned or not, I don't know, because the culture is such that we're living in a world where there are lawmakers who believe this sort of stuff, and it's so to overthrow that culture of thought will take a long time, and whether it can happen or not, I don't know. But we should certainly keep trying.
It's hard to know where it's going. I mean, it's almost as if even those who are not particularly convinced by these laws that have been brought in are swept along inexorably with the flow to God knows where we'll end up with this. And you mentioned there, it's a bit like the way that we've been ruled for the past year is a bit like the Enabling Act that in Germany in the early 1930s, where democracy was really dumped, and they decided to confer emergency powers on the ruling government at that time to the Enabling Act, and we know where that ended up, and that seems to be where we're heading at the moment.
Yes, it's an interesting point, because under the guise of emergency powers, it seems that you can actually just do anything if you've got the power to begin with.
Under the guise of the common good, acting for the common good.
That's what it's all about, acting for the common good.
But of course, we know in most cases it's not acting for the common good. It's acting for the good of a very small minority of extremists, activists, cranks, whatever you want to call them.
Yes.
People who are really eccentrics, and who do not represent the views of the majority, and the establishment favour them over us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Unless you include us in the eccentrics, perhaps maybe we are a bit, but
well,
otherwise maybe we wouldn't be here talking like this. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I think we're moderate. We're moderate. I think we're moderate. I mean,
very much so.
I don't think we're unreasonable.
No. You're right. Guy makes a point here. He says we're the first generation that has never had to defend our freedom, and it shows. No appreciation of where it comes from or what it costs.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that, Max? Because sometimes I know you were wondering if people actually want their freedom these days. You know, do they value their freedom? Do the British people want to be free, or do they prefer safety?
Problem is that, I mean, the war, something's harking back to the war and all that kind of thing, but when the wartime generation died out, which they're more or less done, things seemed to change, and there wasn't that kind of sense of having fought for something and either retained it or won it anymore. And there was a kind of there's a general complacency that everything's always going to be the way it is, and we're always going to be able to buy a nice car, go on our holidays abroad, eat as much as we want. There's been no struggle, really. I mean, I know people have suffered hardship and so on. There's been unemployment and all that kind of thing. But overall, most people have had a comfortable life, and their standard of living materially has improved. And of course, under the Blair regime, he was clever to create the feel-good factor for large parts of most of the population, but at the same time, really carrying out a revolution within that. So he anaesthetized us with good economic conditions and high standard of living, while bringing in these measures which we're now seeing coming to fruition, or have been coming to fruition for some time. Revolutionary, really. We're going through a revolutionary period now, but people in the UK have never lived under the sort of regimes that people in Eastern Europe had to live under until 1989 or 90. So we've not been inoculated against that kind of totalitarian government in the UK. We've read about it. Some of us have read about it in the history books, but we've never experienced it directly. People in Eastern Europe have, so they're the ones who are more sensitive to these sort of changes and political developments, than we are, possibly. I think that could be one of the reasons. So these two things, really. First of all, the wartime generation having gone, and people in Eastern Europe, Europeans like ourselves, but Eastern Europeans who've lived under totalitarian systems, being more aware of these rather cynical and dangerous developments that have taken place in recent years, driven largely by Germany, actually.
Do you know, Max, that's very well said, and I totally concur with your points there. And do you know what? We really need to have you on a lot, because I don't think people fully appreciate, even though you're a man of action very much, you're also a man of the mind, and you study history a lot, and you're a very good political scholar, and you're able to communicate your thoughts very well. Hence, you're nicknamed the legend who is Max Dunbar. So,
well, I mean, I do what I can. I mean, I could spend as much time as I can reading up on things, and try and retain some of it, and it does penetrate my skull, some of it.
Good.
And you can see things happening that are sort of echoing the past. I'm not saying that the past is going to repeat itself in exactly the same way today or tomorrow, but you can see patterns emerging, and perhaps in a way one's better off not to maybe have a better life being ignorant of these historical matters and not worrying yourself to death about it.
I ask myself that all the time. Would life be easier if you just didn't know what was going on in the world, or whatever went on in the world, or whatever's likely to go on in the world? Anyway, that's not our lot. Our lot is to think and do in reality. And on that,
I mean, in reality, actually getting away slightly from we're talking about why we were outside Edinburgh, and I would outside the Holyrood Parliament in Edinburgh. And my kind of analogy is I would say that the legislation that was going through was an extension to the Cutlery Act, 1986.
The Cutlery Act, oh yeah.
The Cutlery Act, yes, because the Cutlery Act has been extended by the Cutlery and General Kitchen Utensils Scotland Act, 2021. Where spoons have been able to identify as forks and forks as spoons, but now we've got sieves, colanders, and tea strainers wanting to be spoons as well. So we're having to bring in legislation to cover them, because after all, they're perfectly entitled to identify as spoons if they so wish.
That's true, isn't it? That's true, and they need to bring in a statutory instrument to make tea strainers also, fit into the same drawer as your colander.
Absolutely.
That wants to be a spoon.
There is a slight problem with tea strainers and so on. I mean, and teaspoons for that matter, and that's a colonial one because tea, of course, tea planters and the exploitation of foreign labour,
slaves, and all that. So these spoons could actually be racist spoons.
Well,
that changes
potentially,
everything.
Certainly not acceptable in modern Scotland,
and not in Granny's drawer anymore.
No,
they're gonna have to go. Yeah, Max, talking about having to go. It's 11:23, and we're gonna have to call this interview to an end. We will have to have you back on again. We should maybe make this a regular feature, maybe once a month or something like that. Have you on because. You're always very enlightening and helpful. So, Max, I'm going to say goodbye. Folks, Tommy says get ladled into them, Max. Good one.
I will do. I'll go and I'm going to stir it up downstairs with a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Good. Okay, Max, take care, and we'll see you shortly.
Okay, Alistair, thanks.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Good old Max. Well, I hope you enjoyed Max. Max has always got a lot of wisdom to impart. He's one of these guys that really brings value to the table, as they say. As Linda says, Max explains it so easily, very informative and interesting. And a great bloke all round is Max, and a great member of the AFFG team. Max is our chief of security, and he's absolutely essential to everything that we do. And talking about demos and things like that might be coming up, we do know that the marching wing of the SNP, who call themselves all under one banner, are doing static demos this summer. And they've got one arranged in Glasgow on the 1st of May, which is Saturday, the 1st of May, which is several days before Thursday, the 6th of May, which is the actual election. Now, the 1st of May is also the day in 1707 when the greatest union of all time came together, which was Scotland and England. So if AUOB are having a static demo, we'll certainly be there to say hello to them and to remind them of our wonderful United Kingdom. So that might be coming up. We'll be keeping an eye on all of that and what they're planning and what we're planning and so on, and we'll keep you informed. Please do watch our Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube pages in order to be kept up to date with all of that. Now, if you are watching on Twitter, please do retweet this with a positive comment. And if you retweet us with a positive comment, then we'll be able to retweet you to over 26,000 people. So please do fire this around. Please do share it. If you're watching on Facebook, please do share on YouTube. And on YouTube, please do subscribe to us, because we want to get these subscriptions up. So click the red subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and also give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Smash that thumbs up button, please. Absolutely. Now, talking about wisdom and philosophy, I want to just talk to you quickly about a quick book here that we've got, Scotland Now by Professor Tom Gallagher. Scotland Now, a warning to the world. This was written shortly after the 2014 referendum. We're selling it in our shop. It's the best book that's been written on the 2014 referendum. It comes from a very intelligent, strong, pro-UK angle, and if you haven't got it, please do consider adding it to your library, and we'll put the link up there, direct link up to Scotland Now, a warning to the world. That's on our shop, and you can go to our shop, which is simply aforceforgood.uk shop-1, and I'll hold that up there once again. So we've got that with the shop, and we'll use this. We do this because Facebook will then take a screen grab of this, and we can use it as a thumbnail for our YouTube, and also our Rumble and BitChute videos, because we're backing these up now. We're backing these videos up on rumble.com and on bitchute.com. So if you're on any of those channels, which are just like YouTube channels, please also give us a follow on rumble.com and on bitchute.com. Now, there we are. Rumble.com, UK A Force for Good, and bitchute.com, UK A Force for Good. Do please follow us on there. Now, I mentioned our competition, and I'm going to see who... Oh, no, that's not that person. That was from last week, sorry. I need to check now who has won this week, and we do have a winner, I'm glad to say. Let me type in their name. We have a winner. Now, if this person could please send us their address, and we will get this straight off to Thomas. Well done, Thomas. The answer, of course, was that HMS Belfast was launched from Harland and Wolff. And we're running a competition every programme, which is based upon our This Day in British History spiel. And we'll be giving away mints and shortbread and chocolates and all sorts of goodies. So always fire in your answer, which is to our email, contact@aforceforgood.uk. Congratulations, Thomas. Well done for that. Samuel says, well done, Thomas. And that was Michael, won it last week. Says, congrats, Thomas. As does Alan. Well done, Thomas. Good stuff. And James says, well done also. Good. Folks, an hour has gone so quickly. I think it was the interview with Max, who's such a compelling speaker, that the hour has gone very quickly. I want to say thank you to everybody who's watching. Thank you to everybody who's sharing this. Thank you to everybody who's retweeting it. Thank you for everybody who's subscribing to our to YouTube. Thank you to everybody who's given thumbs up. Folks, we're here every Wednesday at 10:30 to 11:30, and this has been our 10th programme. So again, it just shows the importance of stick-to-itiveness, and we're going to be sticking to it right through this year, and right up, of course, until the Scottish elections coming up on Thursday, the 6th of May, which is only 7 weeks away now. So, folks, on this St. Patrick's Day, we wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day. And we wish you, as Alan says, a good afternoon in the sunshine to everybody. Thanks to our guest, Max. Congratulations to Thomas. Thanks to all our viewers. Have a great day. All the best from A Force for Good. It just remains for me to say, God bless the United Kingdom and God save the Queen.